I'm going to do a chunk of this with you, but I'm going to show you, huh? Yeah. This I want to show you this one thing that's tricky before we start. So we're going to end up in the end in this position, which is prone, but with the like a starfish. We're going to be in this position, and then you're going to fold the limbs inwards. You're going to try and keep the head in the same place as you fold inwards. And then, come onto the top of the head. And we'll sit here for a bit. And then, cross the arm under and grab your mastoid at the back here. And roll. And do that and then roll back. And swap arms and go the other way. So that's the tricky bit. The trickiest bit being actually being the retraction of the limbs. That's real fun because there's a difference between the weight of the body weight here and the beginning of actually engaging with gravity, evolving. Yeah, you'll have fun. You'll have fun with that, seeing how you can empty out as you come up into crawling. And I'll talk through as we go, of course. To begin with, we're going to be just taking in the skull, and we'll do one side, then the other, and then we're going to talk about spirals a little bit. So we're going to start in constructive rest. How are you doing? You all right?
No.
So to begin with, I'm going to do one side, then the other. But to start off with, just going to feel the support of the floor underneath you. And I'm going to encourage you to breathe through the nose, to let the air pass down through those 3 chambers at the back of the nose. See if you can feel the air flow all the way down the back to fill the lungs from the back. And to feel a tongue position where, I'm not going to say the tip of the tongue, but the front end of the tongue sits easily behind the top teeth, maybe even touching a little bit on the bottom teeth, as you let the whole tongue fill the mouth. And one of the ways to finding the full tongue in the mouth is to swallow, and when the swallow happens, you'll feel an undulation in the tongue and a certain degree of suction between the roof of the mouth and the meat of the tongue. Well, just let that suction happen and then allow the fullness of the tongue to fill out the mouth. So then the tongue can be in a state of suspense without tension. And you can feel the back of the tongue come towards the back of the roof of the mouth. The middle of the tongue come to the middle point of the roof of the mouth. And then, of course, the front part of the tongue come in behind the teeth. But there is a comfortable place where the whole of the tongue can sit in the whole of the mouth. And Raymond Dart talked about malocclusion as being one of the reasons, or one of the things that can create imbalance in the body. So here you're allowing structurally the inside of the larynx, the pharynx, to elongate, lengthen, and release by finding a relaxed point of the tongue. And then you can take one of your hands and then just allow it to come up. And you're going to explore one side, but you're going to explore one side of the head first of all. So You can come up to the top of the head, and from the crown of the head, and explore all the way down over the forehead. You're looking for bony crevices and muscle connections. And as you explore with your fingers, it's not so much of a massage, but a voyage of discovery where you are, especially in the front of the face, you're talking to the trigeminal nerve, the ophthalmic connection to the trigeminal nerve, and you're just asking for some release and some understanding what you're holding on to there on that side of your head. Come over either side of on that side of your nose, and then come under the nostril, over the lips, down over the chin. You can go along the length of the jawline. And when you get to the joint of the jaw there, then you can settle your touch there and ask for integration. You want to dislocate your jaw there. You don't want to massage it. You just want to ask for integration so that there is release along the muscles that have excess tension. And you can come under the jaw and look for the muscle underneath the jaw. It's the digastric. I can't remember the full Latin name of it. You can ask that to release. That goes back and ties into your hyoid bone out there. And then moving towards the ear, you go under that lump behind the ear, which is the mastoid. And there's a good few muscles that tie in there, and then round the back of the skull there to the occiput, round the occiput. And of course, you can feel the bony ridge behind the ear. And expand and extend all the way across back to where you started. And then you can bring your hand to rest and sense what that side of your body feels like. Just having explored your skull on that side. Just note what's going on. And then I invite you to just explore down that particular side of the body in your mind's eye, where you imagine your shoulder, your arm, the points in contact with the floor, the rib cage, the lumbar region, the pelvis, the leg, all the way down to the foot. See if you can sense breathing in through that nostril and breathing into that lung on that side. See if you can sense your tongue on that side, your eyesight on that side, your hearing on that side. And now you can even things up a bit and bring the other hand up to the other side of the head and begin the exploration on the other side, where you come to the top of the head. And come down towards the temple, the forehead. You can trace the lines between the bones. Tracing down the nose, either side of the nose, around the eye. Onto the chin and under the lip, and then trace the jawbone up to that joint there, and then just encourage it to integrate. And then you can explore underneath the jaw, the muscles underneath there. And encouraging lengthening. And then coming up towards the ear, there's that mastoid on that side, which is support and connector for so many, the muscles of the skull and the neck. And actually the mastoid is the beginning of the spirals that we'll look at. And then over to the occiput, running our hands around the occiput. The hammock of the skull. Spreading across your temples up to the top of the head again. You can see if you can sense what you hear out of the left side, what you see out of the left side, or the other side that you chose, what you smell out of that side, you're touching out of that side. You can bring your hand down back to rest on your chest. You can wake up the left-hand side. Just see what is different now that you've worked on the skull on that side. And then direct your attention to the shoulder, the arm, the flock of ribs, the lumbar, the pelvis, your leg right down to the foot, and just bring your mind's eye to that. So now you take your hands that are allowed to come up off your chest, and then gently just place them either side of your temples. So you can feel like you're gathering the top part of your skull in your hands, your palms by your temples. Let your fingers rest, pointing towards the top of your head. And allowing the weight of your arms just to encourage a sense of expansion. And then place your palms just under your cheekbones, with your fingers pointing back towards the top of your ears. And once again, just encourage a sense of expansion. And then let your thumbs come to behind your ear, and your palms just sit over the joint of your jaw, your fingers spreading up towards the top of your head, actually just probably covering your temple. And with your thumbs on your mastoid, just encourage, once again, expansion and lengthening away. And then let your hands come and rest back on your flock of ribs. So I'm going to briefly talk about the things that extend, the spirals that extend out of that, the mastoid. So on the left-hand side, you're going to take your right hand and the front pathway of the left mastoid. So you're just going to drift your hand from there forwards towards the right hand side. So it's going to come to the sternum, down, over, then under the right hand armpit, and then it goes under the back and over the lumbar behind you and finishes on the back of the left hand pelvis. So you can place your left hand and just feel that spiral come down there to the left hand pelvis. And this spiral helps you turn to the right. The other spiral that helps you turn to the right is the right hand mastoid, only that goes down the back left shoulder blade and it comes out under the left armpit and goes across the front of the body to the right pelvis on the front. So I'll go over that again. You can feel with your left hand the back of the mastoid, and it comes down over the left shoulder blade, down under the left armpit, then across the front of the body, over the belly button. You can use your right hand to trace that all the way down to the front of the right pelvis. So there's a crisscross that goes on there. Now we're going to do the other set of spirals. You take your left hand and place it behind your right ear, and this comes forward, this spiral, down towards the sternum, over the left-hand set of ribs, and then ducks round the back, and then goes out towards the right lumbar and ties in at the back of the right pelvis. So to do that again, it's behind, you start where the mastoid is, behind the ear, and you go forward, down towards the sternum, the left hand ribs, then goes behind the back, and then all the way down to the back of the pelvis there. And on the left-hand side, starts at the back, then goes over the right shoulder blade at the back, emerges under the armpit, and crosses down across the belly button, and then ties in the front of the left pelvis. So it starts behind the left ear, goes down over the right shoulder blade and under the armpit, and goes right across the belly button and ties in to the left pelvis. So then just lie there for a moment and see if you can trace or use your objective director to trace those lines, because they all emerge from the mastoid there. Now, another way of sensing this is just to turn your head to the right and to the left, and you can either keep your head in the same place or you can just roll the head, and you'll feel this set of spirals responding. Which is very much back to this idea of the worm creature, where the head is leading and the body is going to follow. So now, let the foot on one of the sides creepy crawly forward, so that the leg is going to extend. And as the leg extends, see if you can bring your mind's eye to the spirals so that the lumbar is not disturbed, or rather that helps, the spiral helps with the extension of the leg. And then on that same side, let the arm come out, and flipper that arm up until it ends up above the head on one side. And you'll feel that you are extended on one side and flexed on the other. So you're going to close the eye of the extended side and look towards the extended side with the open eye. So that will allow you to turn onto the extended side. You're going to let the spiral encourage the turning over onto that extended side. And then as you're lying on the extended side, you're going to let both legs extend out and bring one hand, if you can, up above to meet the other extended side. So you're extended on both sides. Now, normally we do a kind of relaxation thing on this particular side. So you can take just a little bit of a moment breathing into this lengthened side, but then keeping the extended side on the top, you're going to flex the side that's in contact with the floor. So you're going to flipper your foot up, and then you're going to fold the elbow that's in contact with the floor down. And this will mean that you're flexed on the side that's in contact with the floor. And see how flexed you can get in here. And this means that your head is probably going to be a little uncomfortable. And then you can lengthen that arm back up under the head and lengthen the foot down. And then look over the other side and flop back into supine. And then you're going to bring your knees back up. See how one side feels in comparison with the other. And then begin to extend the other leg. So you're going to go the opposite side this time. And you'll be flexed one side and extended the other. So the side that is extended, you're going to close the eye on that side. And with the open eye, you're going to look towards the extended side and begin to roll over onto that extended side. And when you're there, you're going to extend that arm up over the head and extend the leg so you're lying on that line. And then while you're extended on the upper side, you're going to flex or flipper the leg that's in touch with the earth. You're going to flipper that up. And you're going to bring that elbow down to meet it. And then you're going to extend back into lengthening. And then you're going to continue over onto prone. And you may have to scoot yourself back onto your towel. And here in prone, have your hands extended up above the head and your feet extended down below. Like in Superman pose, I guess. It's a way of framing it. And with your forehead in contact with the floor. And it's about 10% of the bridge of your nose in contact with the floor. And in this position, it's going to retrace the left side and the right side. And then bring the idea of integrating both sides, enveloping both sides into the core. I'm going to use some hands-on, and if you don't want hands-on, then please let me know. And as you sense your tongue and your breath in this situation, and this is an interesting thing about the development of the embryo, is that the very top of the notochord runs into trouble, basically, of the developing brain, and it curves around. And it's kind of partly, it becomes part of the idea of forward and up. And there is also that curve round at the bottom of the spine, the coccyx, which in this position is curving round and pointing to the floor. So as you're lying here and you're integrating the whole core, i.e. the spine and the length of the spine, and how the rest drips off that central mechanism. See if you can, in your mind's eye, feel those curves at the top of the spine and the curve at the bottom of the spine. The wave of your core. And then you can flipper your arms out into a kind of an angle, and flipper your feet out a little to an angle, like a starfish, and see if you can bring your mind's eye to those spirals. And then from that position, see what you can let go, because it's a little bit, it can be a little bit tricky. See if you can allow your shoulders to be free. See if you can allow there being a release in the pelvis. And reminding yourself of the curve of the coccyx can also help with that. Well, here comes the tricky part, where from this starfish position, you're going to begin to fold or flex the limbs to bring them into your core, and see if you can keep your forehead in the same place. It may roll onto the top of your head. And keep, you can walk your knees up towards your elbows, there's a kind of pentapedal action going on here, because you also use your head in order to move up. Yes, exactly. And then when you're in pentapedal, just have a little roll of the top of the head. And when you're doing this little roll, it's maybe 10-20% of weight on your head. And it's a further exploration of the bones and muscles of the skull in relationship to the bones and muscles of the neck and back, in relationship to the spirals that continue all the way down to the pelvis, all the way down to the foot. One of the things that can help with the folding is the back coming in towards, yeah. So you're feeling the whole of the back. The limbs from the outside are coming into the central support system. Okay, so next fun part of this, once you've rolled your head a little bit, is to reach the hands around to take up the mastoid to the side. You cross your arms. And you may feel the mastoid and the direction of your arms across your body. And then you're going to cross a corresponding over the other leg behind you. And you're going to look over the shoulder that's extended and continue to look. You may tuck the knee under and then roll over onto your back. And this is a kind of fetal position. So rather than the head extending behind, the head tucks in. And then when you're on your back, you can give yourself a little wriggle, like a little baby. And then you can look back the way you came. You look down towards your belly. You'll roll position. And while you're rolling in this way, still bring your mind's eye to the two curling points, the points at the back of the tongue, up into the ridge of the mouth, because there's a kind of corresponding curling point behind the nose. And then you cross your arms the other way, and cross your legs the other way. And then roll the other way. Very nice. Very nice. Yeah. Very nice. Now there is I cheat at this. I will at a certain point tuck my knee under, because if I don't, then there's a bit of a drop. And then just to come back into the other position, because we're going to do some crawling. So looking down, rolling round, over onto the front. And then let your arms just flop out, so that they are your hands are just either side of your forehead, and then uncross your legs. Feel the whole core get magnetized up to the ceiling. And in this position, I'm just going to do a little bit of focused crawling. So if you can bring your mind's eye to where your coccyx is pointing, it's tucking here. And then as you move the left leg forward, the coccyx is going to tilt in a particular way. So it's now tilting towards one way, and then you're going to bring your mind's eye to the top of the spine as you move that corresponding hand forward. And you may move the other hand and then feel the coccyx come across so that the knee comes forward. You feel the direction of the coccyx change. And so it continues. The idea always being that the two ends are in integration, but not so that the two ends are coming into a state of collapse, but so that the two ends are in a state of releasing to lengthen all the time in the spirals that are created. See if you can keep your awareness of where your tongue is and those mastoid bones. And then let your coccyx be a guide for a couple of steps back. See if you can let that spiral come down. Yes. And you can take it from there to come forward or to change direction. And when you're changing direction, have a mind for what happens in that spiral as you change direction. So it may be that the head turns and the body follows, but there is an unfurling of those spirals from the mastoid downwards. And of course, this is where we get the cross crawl, because there is built into us a natural spiral, which means that there is a relationship between the shoulder of the right hand side and the movement of the left hand foot. Mm. All right. Thanks for joining.